Welcome to the Millennial Body Image Project. We're two licensed dietitian nutritionists bringing you conversations that cut through the food noise, debunk wellness trends, and remind you that it's not you, it's the systems stacked against you.
Together, we'll explore the struggles so many of us carry, challenge the fear-mongering that fuels them, and offer evidence-based, compassionate tools to support your body on its own terms.
Because your lived experience matters, and your body is not the problem.
Let me tell you what, everybody can relate to food noise. We are back. Welcome back to technically season 2 of the Millennial Body Image Project. But if you've been here since the beginning, this is actually season 9. So if you like what we're talking about the next couple episodes, don't worry. We got an extensive archive of stuff to talk to you about.
That goes way back. I'm so excited for this season. I think we have some really great stuff coming up. If you haven't listened to the trailer yet, please go and listen to the trailer. And also, I just want to note, I haven't seen Dana basically all summer because she's been living at the pool. And you think that sounds fun, but it's not in the way that you think. She's not like lounging poolside. She's been coaching all summer. And so I have missed my work wife very, very much. And so I'm very glad that I get to see her. And most of our work right now have been us catching up about nonsense and doing a little bit of work.
Yeah, just like a casual extra 40 plus hours a week full-time job on what I already do. It's so fun. No, it's actually great. But yeah,
I took it out for a little bit of light reading. Sorry.
This is light. Yeah, we wanted to jump back into it by talking about a topic that is very prevalent. I think this is something that comes up in almost every single one of our client sessions.
Oh my God, easily.
And you all have definitely been hearing about this for a minimum of 2 years, I would say, since the rise of the age of Ozempic. And so we're going to be doing a deep dive on food noise today and debunking what it is, what people say it is versus our interpretation of food noise, where it's coming from, and what we can do about it. And this is not going to be a one-part episode, so you'll hear a couple of these throughout the beginning of this season because since this is something that is so prevalent and we hear it talked about so much and in a lot of different ways, we wanted to make sure that we really have the time and space to dig into what are a bunch of different kind of archetypes of client experiences of dealing with food noise, and also talking about how is that different or similar to what the general people are talking about food noise is on social media and in like general media. And then also what the marketers are talking about food noises. Because that's a big thing going on too.
I mean, this has been a marketing thing from the get-go because 10 years ago, there was no phrase like this before. And if it was a phrase used before, it was used in eating disorder work more prevalently, like restrictive eating patterns and thinking about food and obsessing about food being an eating disorder sign. And then also too, even in the more restrictive side, and then also even in binge eating side, these obsessive thoughts around food was also largely talked about more in the eating disorder world, which is really, really interesting. But now it's become so wildly popular in the context of medications like Ozempic and all the GLP-1s and every single types of like formula that they have available around this, that this is getting so used and marketed that some of my clients, and I'm imagining that you're experiencing this too, that a lot of people that I've been talking with about this or bringing this up will be saying like, is there something wrong with me because I'm thinking about eating? Am I thinking about it too much? How do I know if I'm not thinking about it enough or too little or too much, or what is the deal? And how do I know if this is right or not? And that sometimes they would even tell me about how they would feel guilty about the concept of even enjoying food, which just seems mind-boggling, but also incredible marketing tactics because it's making everybody feel like they have a problem and that they need to pathologize their hunger and that they need this medication in order to get it and in order to suppress those types of feelings and those types of thoughts and those types of like noise that we've been hearing about so much. And it just kind of blows my mind how it is this evolution of this idea about thinking about food and it has become today and how heavily marketed it is and how it is this thing that everyone's like, well, I got food noise. It used to be like emotional eating and it used to be like, oh, I'm an emotional eater. It's like, now I got food noise and it's like all these things. And it's like, well, if I identified every single thought spiral that I have, like, we would have there's a lot of noise. It's also called anxiety, but that's a whole nother topic. But
Yeah, and I want to make a point too that it's not only the marketing around medications like RX and
mhm,
everything, right? Because there's a huge wellness space that also has a huge supplement space and all of
mm,
these alternative therapies and stuff. There's now, of course, it starts with the medications and then people are like, "Oh, I want a more natural approach to this." So there are things like we've done past episodes on this, but there's things like berberine and people talk about oats and people talk about all these different herbal supplements and other stuff like that are a more, quote, natural way to reduce your food noise because they are claiming to increase GLP-1 in your body in a more natural kind of way. If you want a deeper dive on that, I'll link an episode in the show notes. But it's not only that, it's now people are using this as a marketing tactic to sell their services, whether they are
mhm.
coaches, whether they are nutritionists or dietitians or trauma coaches or whoever knows what, is like, oh, if you want to reduce your food noise, like here's my 5-step program to do this. Before we even get into like what they're talking about there, we want to talk about what food noise is being talked about as and the ways it gets misinterpreted. So what Christina was saying is food noise simply can be having thoughts about food when you are hungry. It can also be a lot of food confusion, whether that has to do with ADHD or anything else on the neurodivergent spectrum, or it could simply be, and I say simply lightly because there are a lot of people who are confused about what they need to be doing around their food, around nutrition, around health because of all of the noise that is constantly going around. And when you hear all of this, whether it's from social media, it's from friends, it's from family, it's from like random things you see in the grocery store or wherever you are, you have so many different inputs on what you should and shouldn't be doing around your food. And when you're trying to sort through those thoughts constantly to make a simple decision around like, oh, what should I eat for breakfast? What should I eat for dinner tonight? It's almost like you have so many competing inputs that you don't know what to do. And you're like, whatever, I'm just going to get takeout or whatever, I'm just not going to eat or whatever, I'm just going to grab this thing. We call that the nutrition jungle. And we'll go into that as well. But the issue that we're really getting at is the pathologizing of thoughts around food and pathologizing hunger, right? I think there's two different pieces there. And we know that pathologizing hunger is really just a diet and extreme restriction. But pathologizing thoughts around food is also a big issue because just because you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm having a random craving for this, or oh my God, this Thai restaurant opened up down the road, I would like to go there. That is not a problem. That
Mhm.
is just a very normal and expected thought. That's not an issue. And it almost gets to the point where when people start to talk about food noise, I know most of you are not seeing this unless you're watching us on YouTube. Hello. If you think of like a small circle of what food noise originally was, it's almost like that concept has now been bastardized. So the circle has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's encompassing more things. And now people think anytime that I have a thought around food, it's a problem and it's something that I need to do something about that. You know where
Totally.
I'm going here?
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. I just want to circle back. So I do have a guide and talk about food noise and how to help you work through it, but it has a completely different perspective than what other places are talking about. So I just want to note that not everyone who's talking about wanting to help you with food noise is doing it in a way that's pathologizing your hunger cues. So I
No,
think
of
that
course
that's
not.
just really important to kind of note. But I think one of the things that as you're talking about, as it's getting bastardized and that circle's growing wider and wider and wider, part of that, I believe, is because we live in a world that just deeply, deeply praises hunger suppression and thinks of that as something as like you're being good, celebrating restraint, treating hunger as something that should be shameful. Not like, oh, I'm hungry right now because I didn't have like, I like, oh, we had breakfast earlier, but like, now I'm hungry now. It's not like that. It's more of like celebrating this restraint that we have and suppressing our hunger and saying, "Oh, I can wait a little bit longer," or like, "Oh, no, I'm good," or "I had a big breakfast," or "I'm okay." And it's like really just a cup of yogurt. It's like that's not enough breakfast for anybody. Or that's like totally normal for you to want to have lunch again or to have lunch after you had breakfast or wanting to have a snack or things like that. And what it does is it's created this belief system in our culture that is basically saying if you're restraining yourself from eating and going longer periods of time without eating, that means that you're doing something good. And if you're not doing those things, then this is something that's wrong with you and that this is something that needs to be fixed. And that is simply untrue. There are lots of reasons why you would be having layered food noise and things like that. And like what Dana was talking about, this restrictive like cycle, the nutrition jungle, the noise that we're hearing from all this contradictory information that's coming to us too. But the whole concept that something is wrong because you're having hunger cues or you're not restraining yourself from eating at consistent and predictable times is just mind-boggling to me that we have turned that into a pathology and that our food, like, we're just not, it's a lie. And it's a lie to sell you products, to sell you services, to sell you things. It's all part of this larger cog that is the, wellness and diet industry and wanting us to get to these products that they're selling us or these diets that they're selling us and that we're supposed to be doing a lot better. And now we have this product that quote unquote suppresses that and we're celebrating it and everybody wants to have it. And now we're marketing this side effect of this medication, which is hunger suppression. That is what it does. We're celebrating that and saying, oh, and we're calling it food noise because nobody wants to hear a marketing thing say, it stopped my hunger. It gave me anorexia. Woo! Like that's not gonna go forward. But food noise? Oh, that shit slaps, man. Like you hit it, you're like, oh yeah, I relate to that. But like, oh, I'm gonna start an eating disorder. Does not sound very great. Doesn't sound very marketable. It doesn't sound very like enticing. And so it's really interesting to me as I'm kind of seeing this becoming so much more prevalent and hearing it so much more. Because I like to remind people that that's ultimately what we're celebrating here when we talk about reducing our food noise is ultimately we're talking about celebrating restraint and celebrating suppressing our hunger. Because our food noise is us talking. It's our body talking to us. And we're not saying that it's not overwhelming and that there's a lot of noise coming at you. But I think the root cause is a little bit different than what's being sold to us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it's so interesting when you talk about the root cause is like eliminating food noise via these supplements or medications or all these promises that they're making. It is the antithesis of a root cause approach. It's not going into, okay, why are you having this food noise? Because we're not saying food noise doesn't happen. Of course it happens. We're just saying it's not a pathology, right? And so when there's all of this, oh, here's how to stop your food noise, or you hear this marketing around like, oh my gosh, I took this and now my food noise is suddenly gone. We're not denying that if your food noise was suddenly gone, it almost does feel like a mental relief, especially if this is taking up a lot of your mental headspace. But the answer to that is not, oh, just put a plug in it. It's, why is this happening in the first place? And yes, of course, we want to acknowledge that. It's more difficult to do that than just be like, just put a Band-Aid on this and it's going to be fine. Because it's not going to be fine. What's going to happen when you stop taking the thing that's suppressing your food noise? So what we wanted to do with this episode and with the next couple of ones is go into where is this actually coming from to help you guys have a little bit more of an understanding. Because what we always say, especially anytime we're talking about Ozempic stuff or medications, is we want you guys to go into any decision like this with informed consent.
Always.
And we're not selling you anything here. This is a purely informational thing. Like, we're so glad that you guys are here listening to the podcast, but this isn't of any like benefit to us, right? This is more of a, let's figure out where this is coming from. Not only because this is interesting and we're seeing it in a lot of our client sessions, but understanding the roots of where this is coming from and then what you can and can't do about it can be really relieving and also give you a little bit of a permission slip of, I am not the problem, despite what all of the marketing is saying is not only is your food noise is a problem, but it must be something that you did and therefore you are a problem. Because a lot of the time, not only in the Ozempic and GLP-1 and food noise marketing, but people can get to this feeling a lot when they have also come from more of like the functional medicine standpoint of things.
100%.
Even though we agree with a root cause approach that is typically used in a more functional medicine approach. We're not on board with the all or nothing mentality, with the you must spend thousands of dollars on tests and supplements and elimination protocols in order to get there and figure out what the quote root cause is. And then you end up feeling like, oh, it's just my own fault. But another point I want to bring up before you go, Christina, is having food noise or thoughts around food, like Christina was saying before, can just be a sign of hunger.
It's
so
simple.
It can. And like one of the ways, the easiest way to give yourself food noise is to go on a diet.
Oh my God.
Easiest way
Easiest.
to give yourself food noise. The more restrictive and the more complicated it is, the more food noise you're going to have. And most of the time it's not that simple, but
another thing too, absolutely, that's 100% where it comes from. But then think about this. Think about every single diet you've ever gone on and all of the contradictory information that you have. If you've done a vegan diet for a little while and then you're like, oh, I'm going to go paleo. Now you're looking at kale and you're like, kale is God, bah. And then you're looking at steak, you're like, steak is God, bah. And then you're like making a salad, you're like, can I do these two things together? I don't know. Vegan says that kale is God and steak is bad and like sits in your body. Like I remember that Alicia Silverstone book where she's like, it sits in your body for 48 hours and rots. And I'm like, ew. And like, that's disgusting. I'm like, what major propaganda like that is. But these are the types of thoughts that end up getting stacked. And that's what I want to say about the diet aspect of it is like, think about it like, yes, the fastest way to get food noise is by starting a diet. But think about the stacking that's happened with the food noise with every single diet you've ever done. Holy shit. No wonder you're standing there in front of the refrigerator, losing your mind like, I don't even know what to eat. Everyone's eating cottage cheese right now, but 20 years ago, cottage cheese was like the worst thing you could have because it had so much fat in it and you didn't want to have that. And it was like all of these different things and all of this layers of information overload coming to you. No wonder you're feeling overwhelmed by the concept and food noise. And no wonder the term food noise feels so validating to hear. That's like the other point that I wanted to go back to that you had mentioned earlier about how like there's nothing wrong with you for having food noise and that how the relief of having that suppressed for you would feel so good. I've had conversations with several of my clients about this exact same thing and them talking about how they just felt like their mind cleared for a little while. And they were like, this feels so nice. Well, of course that would feel really nice. Of course it feels really validating hearing something like the term food noise and being like, that's what it is. That's what I've been identifying. But the thing is like they're still trying to sell you this product instead of telling you how this all began in the first place. And that product doesn't solve the root problem of it. It just takes it and puts a Band-Aid over it and says, we're just going to ignore that and put that over here. That sounds a lot like boomers to me. Like it's a very like, oh, we're just going to tuck this back over here and ignore that it happened. And we're just going to suppress it, which feels very, for lack of a better word, probably really relieving and wonderful, honestly. But it's important for you guys to think about and remember, like what Dana was saying with like the fastest way to build food, the nutrition jungle is to start a diet. And that this information ends up stacking and it leaves us feeling completely overwhelmed with being able to make any kind of food decision. And that's ultimately what we're talking about when food noise becomes so much where we can't even make food choices and we feel very overwhelmed by the concept of making food choices. And we forget that our brain is simply wired to keep us alive. And all the food thoughts are trying to happen are a sign of hunger, a signal from your body's internal clock, a response to restriction or fear, a form of emotional processing. All of these things, we forget that that's all our brain's trying to do. And we have infiltrated it with all of this contradicting information that it is completely overwhelmed and we can't make food choices, which seems bonkers because most of us have plenty of access to food. even though the grocery prices are bonkers high right now and we're all feeling it. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. But most of us have access to food who are feeling this concept of food noise really heavily. And I just want to remind us that your brain is wired to keep you alive, and the noise is from all of the diets that we've ever done.
And all the diets that we've ever done are almost like a small circle, right?
Oh,
Then you have all of the external stuff that's also coming in that's giving more confusion. But what's interesting is when we talk about food noise, we have multiple vicious cycles going on here. And one of the ones that happens that makes this even harder to deal with is that when you have a lot of food noise coming from the nutrition jungle, or whether it's a lot of different diets that you've tried or anything like that, the farther that you go along with this, the less you're able to hear and trust your body's signals, especially when they're being pathologized of like, oh, this is a problem, hunger is a problem, you should feel hungry because maybe it means you're losing weight, or no, actually, you should just never feel hunger at all, otherwise there's something wrong with you. You then learn to distrust the signals that your body has been giving you because, like Christine was saying, it's trying to keep you alive. And then you associate bad things with those cycles, or those signals, and then you just disassociate from those. So now we can't hear our hunger cues anymore. This can lead to a lot of issues. But the other thing that happens is then when we can't turn internally to figure out what our body needs, we go to an external source. So now we are outsourcing, where we're trying to get, how do we help our bodies? How do we serve our bodies? How do I feed my body? I don't know. And now you're getting even more entry points to the food noise because you're constantly like, okay, well, this didn't work for me. Now I'm going to try this. This didn't work for me. Now I'm going to try this. Now you have probably 30 to 40 diets or protocols or different things that you've tried. Of course, you're going to have food noise, because how are you supposed to sort the fact from fiction and figure out what's actually going to work for you? More and more people are talking about personalized nutrition, but like, what does that even mean? You know, to us, it means, how can we figure out how to serve what is best for your body, and knowing that that is going to change over time. And you just have to meet yourself where you are. But part of this is giving yourself a huge permission slip of being like, of course this is confusing. Of course this is hard. How could you not have food noise in this day and age because of all of the inputs we constantly get, both from what we have been told that we should be doing our whole lives as millennials, but then also the constantly changing things of like, now skinny's back, I guess we're wearing low-rise jeans again. I can't fit in those things from high school. Is that a bad thing? Should I be able to fit in my jeans from high school? And it's just, there's so many different cycles that are going around that make it more and more confusing. Honestly, I've never met someone who doesn't have food noise.
same. Never.
Have you?
No.
I mean, think food noise.
Think about sitting around the table and the way people start talking about the food. All of that is noise. It's all of their internal dialogue around what their fears are about food. And I think about that all the time. And I think it makes sense that people are like, oh, finally, there's this term to describe it. But that's also kind of pathologizing something that is, in a lot of ways, kind of natural. But I also wanted to go back to what you were saying, too, about the nutrition jungle and how difficult it is now with all of this noise that's coming at us and all of these inputs, these data inputs of like taking us away from our natural hunger and fullness and being able to respond to our body. No wonder, everybody, that it has felt so unbelievably difficult to execute intuitive eating. Because if you're trying to listen to your internal cues, and your internal cues are like, donuts are bad, but I want donuts. And then it's like, and then you're going back and forth. You're like, kale is good, but steak is bad, and steak is good, but I like steak, and I need iron, and I need all these different things, and oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And you're going through, no wonder it feels so unbelievably difficult, and why it feels so easy to reject the entire concept of intuitive eating, because we are so far removed from being able to listen to our body's own internal clock and knowing what our body's needs, and, you know, like this like personalized nutrition, like what our body needs. And we're so turned away from that because we cannot conceptualize that we shouldn't be overanalyzing our plates. And so it feels really difficult. Like, no, I need to be thinking about every single piece and component that's going on my plate. Because if I'm not, that means I'm not having a quote unquote balanced meal, or I'm not optimizing my nutrition. And that's going to have long-term health outcomes on me over and over, like down the road. No wonder it feels like this really foreign, very like, what the hell are they smoking idea to be able to execute intuitive eating. And so if you have failed intuitive eating, that's another really great series that we did too. But if you have felt like you have failed intuitive eating, I just want to throw it out there that part of the reason why intuitive eating feels so hard is because we have done so much to turn us away from our body's natural cues and understanding what our body's natural needs are. And that's what's so funny. I saw this thing the other day and it was talking about, oh gosh, I'll share the Instagram reel, like I'll find it and share it. But it's this food scientist who talks a lot on Instagram, and she's wonderful. I really like her. But she also does this thing where she shows things from the like Maha RFK type stuff. But one of the things that he like RFK had said that he was going to rewrite the entire nutrition guidelines and make it not a 400-page thing, but like a quick sheet that everyone could kind of look at. One of the things that she said was, we already have a quick sheet. The 400-page thing is all of the data that supports the quick sheet. And the whole point of what I'm getting at is that she's like, the things that have made it difficult for people to execute the nutritional guidelines isn't the fact that we don't know about nutritional guidelines. The fact that we're having a difficult time with executing this is because of all of the different inputs of information and access to care in order to execute it. My whole point of saying this is the reason why intuitive eating feels so difficult and the whole idea of food noise feeling so validating is because the nutrition guidelines, the stuff that we know, is so simple and so easy in concept that like, oh, I want to have protein, fat, and carbs. But we look at our plate and think, are these the right carbs? Is this the right protein? Is this the right fiber? Is this the right fats? And we overanalyze our plate to the point where we become so anxious about everything that we're eating that we can't make any decisions at all. And it is literally easier to close the refrigerator and just go sit on the couch and go around with a blanket and eat some chips. And then we've done nothing, And I feel like that is part of why this term has become so identifiable for people, right? I don't know. I've been talking for a while, but I feel like I've hit some points.
Here's another point. Is like, it should not feel like a full-time job to figure out how to feed yourself.
Oh my God.
And if it does, you have too much food noise. But the answer to that is not put some noise-canceling headphones on so that you can't hear it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you just end up not eating, which is actually what Ozempic touts as a success story.
Yeah.
Which is not actually a success story at all if you want to continue existing in this plane. Saying that, right?
Oh, especially,
I know a lot of people don't want to continue existing in this plane, in this current timeline. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah. But also at the same time, too, like we did that episode on what everyone doesn't want to hear about Ozempic, the truth about Ozempic that no one wants to hear. I think that also plays in right here, too, about the idea of suppressing your hunger cues. If you don't have diabetes and you're getting on Ozempic, your lack of eating is actually one of the biggest problems with managing your blood sugar regulation over the long term anyways. But that's a whole other episode that we'll share with you. But the whole point of this is, one, I just want to recap. One, this term is everywhere. And it is okay that you hear it and you're like, yes, I feel that and I have it and it's overwhelming and I want it fixed.
Again, if you don't have food noise, who are you? Amazing.
And also, who was your mother? Who was your mother? But I feel like that's one piece, right? Is that this is everywhere and that the way that they're marketing this makes it feel like you need to fix your brain and like, it makes sense that people like, I don't want to obsess about food anymore. I don't want feeding myself to feel like this full-time job, like Dana was saying. And that's totally normal and understandable and very valid. And it is overwhelming. And it's understandable that you would want some respite from that, right? But what we want to remember too is that food noise is actually information. It's information from our body about what is our body trying to tell us. And that's what we're going to get into in our next episode, talking about if we have food noise, which if you're listening to this, you probably do, is where is this coming from? What are the data points? What is it trying to tell me? And then ultimately, what can I do to support myself to lessen the load that I am carrying every day when it comes to making my plates? And am I looking at my plate and overanalyzing it? And that's feeding into a lot of this too. And we're going to get into like, how do I stop pathologizing this? Learn what food noise is actually trying to tell you. And then ultimately, how do you support your body with this in this entire cycle that we're living in? And that's ultimately the goal. And if you find a coach who's doing that type of thing for you, awesome. That's what we want. We want someone helping you doing that, not saying like, oh, we're going to continue to suppress your hunger and we're just going to learn cues to ignore what your body's telling you. You need to learn the language of your body so that you can respond to it and have a reciprocal relationship with it and stop feeling like you're fighting against it, because it's not trying to fight against you. It is literally just trying to keep you alive, girls. It's just trying to keep you alive, guys. And it's our job to learn how to shut the noise out, hear what it's trying to tell us, decipher the information, and then provide it what it needs. And it will tell you what it's needing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, nobody wants to obsess about food. Nobody wants to feel like they are controlled by food or thoughts about food or feel like feeding their body or their family or whatever is a full-time job. But the answer to that is not to stop eating. The answer to that is not to suppress your hunger by either just ignoring your hunger cues or taking a supplement or a medication that's going to suppress your hunger cues, which they're saying is suppressing your food noise.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just putting noise-canceling headphones on at Thanksgiving, which, granted, is a relief if you don't have to hear everybody's other stuff, but it doesn't make that go away. It only makes, like Christine was saying, it only sweeps it under the rug for as long as you have the headphones on. What happens when the headphones come off?
Yeah, exactly. What do we do then?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this series. I'm really excited about this season. I'm so glad we're back. And I hope you guys resonated with this episode. We have some episodes that we're going to link in the show notes for you guys to take a look at, to dive deeper into some of the concepts that we've talked about. Because this is not a one-time conversation. It's going to build...
This could be a master's course.
I know
we say that a lot, but...
Because it's never one thing. Like, one thing that I tell my clients all the time is like, if your chips are talking to you from the pantry, they can't talk, first of all. That's all this stuff that's going on here. And it's all right here in your mind. And that what has an apple ever done to you? What has ever a bag of chips ever done to you? Nothing. There is just food. And we need to figure out how to turn off these inputs and these obsessive thoughts and these fears, ultimately the fears that we have around food. And so just remember today when you're struggling and you're like, oh my gosh, what has this ever done to me? And how bad would it be if I were to just make a decision and eat this one thing and just move on with my life and try not to overanalyze what I'm eating all the time?
And if even that feels too overwhelming, we'll work on it in the next episode.
Exactly.
Or reach out for support if you have questions. We're here, Millennial Body Image Project at gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, all the places.
Yay.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next week. Bye.